On the night of October 14th, Tamara left their apartment around 9:15 p.m. to buy groceries. At 9:26 p.m., she was stopped by Officer Garrison near the intersection of Eastlake Avenue and Glendale Street. Dispatch logs showed he radioed a stop involving a silver 2010 Honda Accord allegedly matching a vehicle from a stolen car report. The plate number differed by 2 digits from the reported car. No assisting unit was called. 2 residents heard shouting and looked from their windows. They saw Tamara on the ground and a man standing several meters away. Moments later, Dante Porter came out of the building, identifying himself and trying to explain that the car belonged to his wife. Witnesses said the officer appeared aggressive and told Porter to stay back. According to Dante's later statement, Garrison looked directly at him and said, "Dante Porter. Didn't expect to see you." Porter claimed Garrison had not yet seen any identification. When Tamara tried to intervene, Garrison forced her to the ground. Witnesses heard a cracking sound followed by her scream. Garrison radioed, "Suspect resisting," while keeping his weapon pointed at Dante. Then, according to Porter, he lowered his voice and said, "Greetings from Jamal." The name stunned him. Jamal Porter had died in 2014, and no record connected Garrison to the family. Backup arrived minutes later. Officers found Tamara unconscious with spinal injury at the L1 to L2 level, later confirmed by hospital imaging. Garrison reported that she had resisted, and that Dante had approached in a threatening manner. Both eyewitnesses contradicted this, stating Dante did not advance. Porter was detained for questioning. During intake, he repeated several times, "He knew my brother's name." Detective Ruiz noted that statement in the transcript. A search of departmental records found no prior contact between Garrison and the Porter family. Internal Affairs opened a procedural review due to inconsistencies. The vehicle mismatch, the unverified use of force, and the officer's apparent prior knowledge of the detainee. Garrison's body-worn camera contained 12 minutes of missing footage, officially attributed to a device malfunction. By 2 a.m., detectives concluded that the encounter did not align with a random traffic stop. Garrison's awareness of Dante's identity before checking any documents indicated a personal motive. Investigators questioned whether the reference to Jamal Porter linked the case to older unsolved files. During a short break in interrogation, Detective Ruiz asked, "Do you think he targeted you?" Dante responded, "He came for me, not for her." He refused further comment and requested a lawyer. At 3:40 a.m., medical staff informed the precinct that Tamara's condition was critical, paralysis likely permanent. Porter received the news without visible reaction. The following day, administrative investigators reviewed Garrison's personnel file. It showed no disciplinary history, but listed prior assignments in gang enforcement units active in South Los Angeles during 2014. Among archived reports was the name Jamal Porter, listed once in connection with the 38th Street Kings. By November 2022, 1 month after the incident, Tamara Porter remained hospitalized at County Medical Center. Her condition was listed as permanent paraplegia, resulting from an L1 to L2 spinal fracture. She required assisted care and long-term rehabilitation. The medical expenses exceeded the couple's savings within weeks. Dante Porter sought legal aid and filed a complaint with the Internal Affairs Division of the Los Angeles Police Department. The review was accepted, but no criminal charges were filed against Officer Derek Garrison, pending further evidence. Dante's background as a former gang member complicated his credibility. Court documents confirmed prior arrests between 2007 and 2012, though none led to felony convictions. In interviews, he insisted that his past was no longer relevant, but investigators viewed his criminal history as a potential factor in the altercation. Requests for departmental footage were delayed due to what officials termed technical recovery issues. During this period, Dante reconnected with an old acquaintance, Rico Dre Williams, age 36, a former member of the same gang. Dre had since worked sporadically as a warehouse loader and part-time security guard. Their communication resumed after Dre learned about the attack from mutual contacts. According to Dante's later statement, Dre was the one who first raised the possibility that Garrison's actions were personal, not procedural. On December 2, 2022, Dre arranged a meeting at a parking lot near Vernon Avenue. He presented Dante with copies of internal police summaries obtained through a contact in the department. The documents outlined 4 incidents involving Officer Garrison over the previous 3 years. In each case, the injured civilian had verified or alleged connections to the 38th Street Kings. None of the cases resulted in disciplinary action, and each was closed as use of force justified. Dre stated that the pattern was too consistent to ignore. Among the documents, one drew Dante's attention. A report dated June 2014, the same month his brother Jamal had been killed. Officially, Jamal Porter's death was classified as the result of a gang shootout on Crenshaw Boulevard. The report included a coroner's statement listing gunshot wounds as the primary cause of death. Yet attached forensic photographs, later confirmed to be authentic, showed heavy facial trauma and broken ribs inconsistent with an exchange of gunfire. Dre pointed to these discrepancies, stating, "He wasn't shot first. He was beaten first." The discovery changed the context of Jamal's death. Dante requested access to archived files, but as a civilian, he was denied direct entry. Dre continued investigating through unofficial channels. Within 2 weeks, he obtained a supplemental record dated 1 day before Jamal's death. It indicated that Jamal Porter had been detained for questioning in connection with the murder of Officer Trevor White, a member of the Gang Impact Unit killed during a narcotics raid in 2014. The file showed that Jamal was released after several hours due to insufficient evidence. The next day, he was found dead. According to department records, Trevor White had been Derek Garrison's assigned partner at the time of his death. That connection established a direct personal motive. Garrison had lost his colleague, and his colleague's suspected killer had been Jamal Porter. The timeline now aligned with Dante's assumption that Garrison's confrontation 8 years later was not random. Dante reviewed the partial case file with Dre. The report listed 3 suspects from the 38th Street Kings. The names were Jamal Porter, Rico Dre Williams, and a third name redacted with marker ink. Only the initial D remained visible. Dre admitted he had no recollection of any third suspect at the time. Dante, reading the document, realized the implication, that he might have been listed without his knowledge. The question shifted from Garrison's motive to Dante's own past. If he had been under suspicion in 2014, why had no one informed him? The answer required examining the original investigation of Trevor White's death. Records from that year described a chaotic operation in which a police unit entered a suspected narcotics location. Shots were fired. Officer White died from a single wound to the chest. Ballistics matched a .38 caliber handgun typical of gang circulation, but no specific weapon was recovered. 3 gang members were detained briefly. None charged. The case remained unsolved. Dante's attempts to reopen the file through legal means were unsuccessful. Officials cited time limitations and lack of new material evidence. Dre, however, persisted. On December 19th, he located a retired clerk who had worked in the records division in 2014. The clerk confirmed that the original homicide file had been requested twice in recent years, once in 2017 and once in early 2022, both times by Officer Derek Garrison. The sequence formed a pattern. Garrison had accessed the file months before confronting Dante. The supposed traffic stop might have been planned after reviewing those documents. Dante's focus turned to understanding his brother's final hours. He remembered Jamal visiting him the day before he died, appearing nervous but refusing to explain why. At the time, Dante assumed it was related to internal gang conflicts. Now, combined with the detention record, the visit appeared to be a farewell or an attempt to protect him from involvement. During another meeting, Dre told Dante that he had managed to view an unredacted line from a copy stored in digital format. The obscured suspect name had been originally written as D. Porter. In early January 2023, Dante Porter began re-examining the events of 8 years earlier. The old case files, combined with Dre Williams's findings, made him question his own memory of the night. Officer Trevor White was killed. Dante's recollection was fragmented, shaped by alcohol and time. He remembered being at a safe house used by members of the 38th Street Kings. That evening, there had been a party following a drug transaction. He drank heavily. Near midnight, distant gunfire was heard from a nearby street. By morning, word spread that a police officer had been shot during a raid in the district. A week later, Jamal Porter was found dead. Dante, believing his brother had been executed by the gang for cooperating with police, severed all ties and left the criminal world. For years, he accepted that version without question. Now, new evidence suggested that the death of the officer and the death of his brother were directly connected. In early February, Dante decided to locate Derek Garrison's wife, Nicole. He learned through public records that she lived separately from her husband, at an address in Pasadena. Contacting her posed a risk, but Dante believed she might hold information explaining Garrison's obsession. According to later statements, Dante met Nicole Garrison on February 6th at a coffee shop near her workplace. The meeting lasted 40 minutes. She appeared nervous and repeatedly emphasized that her husband had changed dramatically over the past year. She described erratic behavior, frequent drinking, and an increasing fixation on unfinished business related to his former partner. Nicole said that several weeks before the confrontation with Dante, Derek received a large envelope by mail. After reading its contents, he began repeating a phrase, "Now I know the truth. They'll all pay." She never saw what was inside. This testimony, later verified by phone records and a digital delivery log, indicated that the envelope had been sent from a private address in Glendale belonging to the widow of investigator Raymond Holt. Holt had worked the original Trevor White case in 2014 and had recently died of cancer in late 2022. Dante reported this information to Dre, who took steps to verify it. Through an acquaintance in the records department, Dre obtained contact with Holt's widow, Evelyn Holt. During a recorded call on February 10th, she confirmed that before her husband's death, he had expressed regret over unfinished evidence in the Trevor White file. He believed the material had been suppressed due to administrative oversight and wanted Garrison to know the full story. She stated, "Raymond mailed him everything before he passed. He said Derek deserved the truth." The widow also confirmed that the package contained several undeveloped photographs from a security camera installed near the site of the raid. The images had not been included in the official report because they were unclear. After Holt's death, Garrison apparently developed the photos himself and interpreted them as confirmation of the suspects' identities. Dre used his contacts to retrieve digital copies of those same photographs. The images, time-stamped June 3, 2014, 23:46 hours, showed three figures entering a warehouse on Jefferson Street. The resolution was poor, but one individual was recognizable by a neck tattoo matching Jamal Porter's. A second man's features matched Dre Williams. The third was taller, with a hood obscuring his face, but the height and build were consistent with Dante Porter. When Dante saw the images, he remained silent for a long time. Dre later said he avoided eye contact, realizing what Garrison must have believed all along. To an outside observer, the photograph appeared to show all three men entering the location moments before the fatal shot that killed Officer White. After several minutes, Dante asked directly, "Was I there?" Dre hesitated before answering. He finally admitted, "No. That night you were drunk. You passed out before anything started. Jamal and I went out. We took your jacket to make it look like there were three of us, so if someone followed us, they'd think the crew was bigger." He then continued, "The cop wasn't supposed to die. Someone fired in panic. Jamal said he'd take the blame if it came to that. He never gave me up. He never said your name." The confession explained the inconsistencies. The supposed third suspect, identified only as D in the records, had been assumed to be Dante based on the jacket and build. Jamal's silence during questioning protected both his brother and Dre, but left Garrison with a distorted picture. When Garrison later received the undeveloped photos, he interpreted them as confirmation that all three men, including Dante, were present. For Dante, the realization changed everything. Garrison's hatred was not random or arbitrary. It was based on evidence that appeared credible but was incomplete. From Garrison's perspective, he had lost his partner to a group that included both Porter brothers. Jamal's death had been vengeance for Trevor White. The attack on Dante years later was the continuation of that same belief. Dante pressed Dre for more details. Dre explained that after the shooting, the gang leadership ordered everyone to remain silent. He and Jamal disposed of the weapon and claimed to have been elsewhere. When news came that Jamal had been detained, Dre tried to reach him but learned the next day that he had been killed. The official record attributed the death to gang violence, but the beating injuries now made sense. Garrison had found Jamal first. Dante arranged to meet him through intermediaries. Using contacts from his old neighborhood, he learned that Garrison frequented a bar in Montebello after shifts. Witnesses described him as heavily intoxicated, often speaking about his dead partner. On March 9th, Dante informed Dre Williams that he intended to speak to Garrison in person and show him the evidence proving his innocence. Dre insisted on accompanying him, arguing that Garrison would not believe anything unless he heard it from both men. The meeting place was the parking lot behind Ryder's Bar, a small establishment near Whittier Boulevard. Security footage later reviewed by investigators showed Dante and Dre arriving at 10:32 p.m. They waited near Dre's car. At 10:47 p.m., Derek Garrison appeared, visibly unsteady. He carried his service weapon, although he was off duty. According to the official incident report compiled afterward, Garrison noticed the two men and approached, shouting, "I knew you'd come back! Murderers! You killed Trevor." He raised the gun but did not immediately fire. Dante shouted back, "I wasn't there. I didn't kill your partner." Garrison responded, "You're lying. I have photos." The confrontation escalated rapidly. Dre stepped forward and said, "He's telling the truth, Garrison. Dante wasn't there. It was me and Jamal witnessed testimony from a nearby resident, who heard fragments of the conversation, corroborated that Dre's voice was raised and emotional." Garrison paused. "What?" he said. Dre continued, "That night he was drunk and passed out. We took his jacket. The cop died by my hand. I fired. Jamal took the blame. You killed an innocent man." This statement was the first direct confession linking Dre Williams to the 2014 death of Officer Trevor White. It also exposed Garrison's misunderstanding. According to forensic reconstruction, Garrison's weapon hand began to shake. He said, "No. I killed the right people. Jamal was there. You were there." Dre replied, "But Dante wasn't. You crippled his wife for someone else's sin. You're as much a killer as I am." Garrison reacted immediately, firing one round that struck Dre in the abdomen. The ballistic trajectory indicated a distance of less than 3 meters. Dante lunged toward Dre as he fell, grabbed the dropped firearm, and returned fire. 2 bullets hit Garrison, one in the shoulder, one in the chest. When responding units arrived minutes later, called by Dante himself, both men were found on the ground. Garrison was still conscious, but gravely wounded. According to the paramedic report, his final words were, "I thought I was doing right, avenging Trevor, my friend. But I was wrong?" He died before reaching the hospital. Dre was transported to County Medical Center with a gunshot wound that caused permanent spinal damage. He later underwent surgery and survived, but lost partial mobility. Dante was detained at the scene, questioned, and released on self-defense grounds pending investigation. During subsequent court proceedings, Dre Williams gave a full confession regarding the 2014 incident. He stated that the killing of Officer Trevor White had been unintentional. According to his testimony, he and Jamal Porter entered the warehouse to collect money owed to the gang. White and Garrison entered moments later during a raid. In panic, Dre fired once, hitting White. Jamal urged him to flee, then turned himself in the next day, but denied Dre's involvement. Dre's account matched the original forensic timeline from the old case. Because the statute of limitations did not apply to the death of a police officer, prosecutors filed a formal charge of manslaughter. However, the court considered the lack of intent and Dre's cooperation in the new investigation. He received a reduced sentence with eligibility for medical parole due to his disability. The inquiry confirmed that Garrison had acted on false assumptions derived from misinterpreted evidence. Over 8 years, he had executed a campaign of revenge, killing Jamal Porter in 2014, injuring civilians connected to the gang, and finally attacking Dante and his wife in 2022. Official findings described his behavior as a prolonged personal vendetta under the guise of law enforcement. For Dante, exoneration provided no resolution. The trial transcript documented that Tamara Porter refused to testify in his defense. She stated in her written declaration that she could not continue living with a man whose past associations had brought such consequences. "It doesn't matter that he's innocent," she wrote. "His world destroyed mine." Their marriage legally dissolved in August 2023. The case file closed in October 2023. Officially, the events were categorized as a homicide and a self-defense shooting. The final report summarized: all principal actors deceased or disabled. Motivations identified as personal revenge and mistaken identity. Months later, a police archivist discovered that Garrison's personal locker had contained a framed photograph of Officer Trevor White and a handwritten note: "He deserved justice. I gave it."